So we're going to start tonight's meeting. We're going to begin the meeting with a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. A full house. Yes, welcome everyone. Could I begin the meeting with approval for the village board meeting minutes from July 24th, 2025? Motion.
Second.
Any additions, corrections, anything?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. We have a special presentation this evening from Jim Dale. Take it away.
You're on.
That's your cue.
Jim Dale. What am I doing? I'm representing the Bicentennial Committee tonight. So just to get started, there's a historic replica. The Seneca Chief is coming down the canal system, and eventually it will arrive here in Baldwinsville on October 3rd. Lots of festivities are being planned along the way, and we are planning some here. But before I get to that, just some quick facts for those Erie Canal novices. Erie Canal was started in 1817 and finished in 1825. But at the same time, the Seneca-Cayuga Canal was being built. It was started in 1818 and finished in 1823, ahead of the Erie Canal. And what's important about that is that this was the connector. This allowed the Seneca River to reach the Erie Canal. And the folks in town, especially Dr. Jonas Baldwin, anticipated moving goods and services. He was pretty savvy. He knew it was coming, and he wanted to move his stuff to the big cities, and that was the way to get it done, through the Seneca-Cayuga Canal. By then, by 1808, he had finished his sawmill, his grist mill, and a few other things that were going on, and he had product to move. And by way of family history, my wife's family are the Dunbars. They settled the town. They came here in 1818. They were primarily agricultural farmers. They had tenant farmers. They owned a big chunk of land east of the river for a long, long time, Dunbar land. But what's important about that is the Dunbars owned stakes in canal barge boats. In particular, they owned about a third of the Walter McMullen. And if nobody knows who Walter is Louise Mercer's dad. And he had a large canal barge, and he moved goods and services. So essentially anything that we produced in the grist mills and the sawmills, in the flour mill, got on a barge and moved through the Erie Canal system. So I'd like to say that by the time the state got around to recognizing that the rivers and lakes were already part of the canal system in 1918, when they finally named the whole thing the barge canal system, Baldwinsville was always there on the canal moving its services. So it's a nice honor that the boat, that is that replica, is coming and it's stopping here. So one of the things we'd like to do as a committee is we'd like the board to recognize October 3rd as Erie Canal Anniversary Day here in Baldwinsville. And because it's coming and the boat will get here whether we like it or not. And also to encourage the village government and all the businesses in town to participate. Right now, we have events planned. We have some food trucks planned to be on hand on Paper Mill Island when the boat gets here. Many of the community organizations, everything from the Kiwanis and the Lions, the Rotary, to the Shacksboro Museum, to the Baldwinsville Center for the Arts, and to the Ladies Flower Club there. They're all going to participate. Everybody's going to come down. The event's going to happen from 4:30 till 7:30. It's a short window. Once the barge gets here, there'll be some speeches and basically welcoming the folks to town. And then after that, they're going to open up the boat for tours. And so there'll be folks that'll be able to take the community in, see the barge replica, and talk about that. As such, we'd like to ask, as a Centennial Committee, that the village waive all the fees connected with the use of the park that day. It will be a community event in which everybody is encouraged to and should be participating. And we'd like to have everything that is connected to the cost of using Paper Mill Island and the South Shore waived at this time. Thank you. You have any questions? Okay, thanks.
Do we need to put that on the agenda for this meeting?
To recognize.
No, to discuss the entire thing.
I don't see why not. Let's do it.
Okay, item D, the bicentennial. Moving on to Dan O'Hara is the next presenter.
Thank you, Mayor. I know traditionally you speak here, but I'm old school. I really don't like my back to the audience. So is there any objection if I stand over there? And I'll definitely address the board. I'm not here to address the audience. Anybody have objection, Mayor?
You must have been here before because they vacated that spot ready for you already.
We're going to talk about trails and signage in the village.
No problem.
Mayor, you okay with that?
Yes, go ahead.
So thank you. The idea tonight is to have a conversation about the bustling riverfront community in Baldwinsville, New York. And I want to thank the board because I have the opportunity with my grandkids last year to be able to walk many of the trails, the beautiful trails that we have here in Baldwinsville. And I've had an opportunity to interact with folks that live in Baldwinsville and absolutely enjoy the beautiful trail system that we have. It's hard to believe that it was probably 25, 26 years ago that we embarked on this adventure, many of us in this great community, to build out a trail system. And the idea at the time was really to link the four quadrants of the village of Baldwinsville to a trail system. So if you saw those double shepherd crook lights and you got down on that trail, vision a moving escalator. And that moving escalator was going to take you to downtown Baldwinsville. And that was the story that we were able to convey to many prospective business folks who came here in Baldwinsville, put in some restaurants, invested millions of dollars to revitalize Baldwinsville, New York. Lock 24, I'm told, is the second busiest lock in the canal system. And the idea at the time was, how do we get people to stop? How do we get them, the boat traffic, to embark on an adventure in Baldwinsville as opposed to going through? So that said, we went cooperatively, collaboratively with the Chamber of Commerce. It was a team effort. It wasn't anybody against anybody else. It was a team effort. And everybody worked together to try to figure out a way to make it happen. Now, we had some hiccups. We certainly took our licks here and there, but we never gave up. We just kept moving forward. And we're at that crossroads right now. And I'm starting to get the energy. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in the village. So you're doing some wonderful things. And I think what we need to do now, again, part of the conversation, is to take a look at identifying the assets that we have. And we haven't really done that. And I'll take the hit for that. You know, we were excited at the time just to get the development going. Probably should have thought about, okay, maybe we ought to put some appropriate signage up, continuously communicate that so people had an awareness. Because as I walked the trail, particularly the Sergeyevich Trail, I asked people, young folks that rent apartments down there on Lock Street on a Saturday morning when I got my coffee and I'm walking, I say, excuse me, I'm doing an informal survey. Can you tell me if you know there's a trail over behind St. Mary's Church? Most of them say, nah, sir, I'm not really familiar with that. And I said, well, there's a beautiful trail over there. And you start to talk to them, and you want to get that energy, and you want to get them motivated, and you want to get them using the trail system, but we've got to figure out a way to better identify what the asset is. So, I've got a couple of thoughts. I've got some folks here, Mace, Peg, Sarah Baker, Joel Plumley, they're part of a group that we've brainstormed on some ideas to try to get the conversation going about what's the appropriate venue, what's the appropriate signage, what should we be doing? So we've got, as most of you have familiarity with the trail system, you look at the 4 quadrants, north, south, east, and west. And we've got the existing trails that you see that are currently what do you call that, an orange color. One of the things that, quite frankly, I was amazed at is I didn't realize down at Community Lions Park, there's actually a trail internal to the park. Most people aren't familiar with that. So it tells me, okay, 25 years ago, I did a lousy job of communicating that. So I need to find, with the support of the village board, the Chamber of Commerce, and other entities, to get a way to communicate that. So one of the things that we're going to propose for your thoughts and your consideration, if you go to the next page on your slide presentation, is what type of signage should be at each of the trailheads. Should it be this type of sign, which I think is beautiful, when you come down past Anheuser-Busch into the village, that park there is gorgeous. Nice sign, the garden club or whoever is responsible for maintaining that does a phenomenal job. Welcome to this great bustling riverfront community. And that's what you see. So we ought to think about how can we, as a collaborative group, Chamber and the various non-for-profits in the community, the village board here, figure out what's the right signage for those particular trailheads that identify the north, south, east, and west trail. Now, I'm going to defer for a moment to Sarah Baker, because one of the things that is near and dear, obviously, to some of the former trustees that were part of this operation 25 years ago was a gentleman, Sergei Yevich. Sergei was a tremendous guy. He was an architect by trade. QPK, I believe, was the company he worked for. Sergei lived about a block and a half down the road here. And Sergei volunteered all of his time. I said, Sergei, look, I can probably find the money to do this job. What I can't do is come up with the creative ideas. I typically wear, as you've heard, white and blue shirts. Now tonight I'm out of my comfort zone with this shirt on, but I needed somebody that was going to be able to put things together. Sergei did a great job. So we do have the Sergei Yevich Trail. Sarah, what are you thinking on some thoughts? I know you want to share a little bit about Sergei himself.
You did a fine job, Dan. But I do want to say, Jim, I am so delighted with what you're doing. Thank you. Thanks, Dan. And I would rather use my teacher voice over here rather than standing in front of a microphone. All right, sorry to stand.
That's fine.
A little history, and I promise I'm going to keep this really, really short. We right now are in the first quarter of the 21st century, and I want to take it back to the last quarter of the 20th century and what was accomplished in this community starting around, the early 90s. It was amazing. We were undergoing a historical transformation from a community that was industrial and canal to residential. The kind of businesses like Morris Pumps were beginning to move. And we had a public-private, enthusiastic board, several boards, that looked at this village and said, some of us, I remember Dan, were saying, we live on this beautiful waterway. And why isn't something being done along the waterway? How many communities are on a waterway or a lake? And here we were. So what was accomplished over those, well, I'm going to say in the last 25 years, because this year there's also another anniversary besides, and this worked so beautifully, besides the 200th of the canal system, it's the 25th anniversary of the ribbon cutting of Paper Mill Island. And that comes in the fall. There's also another anniversary that's coming up next year, and that's the 250th anniversary of our country. We had an amazing bicentennial celebration here. My thoughts, wouldn't it be great if our bicentennial celebration in Baldwinsville, New York, on the canal system, with all that we have here, would be a recognition of our trail system. So, a little bit of background as to all the things that happened during that about 25 years. Paper Mill Island, the creation of an architectural review board. I challenge you nationally to find communities that have an ARB. I know there are very, very few, but we have one. It saved our village center. The point of land that Dan pointed out, that came at that time. The baskets and barrels that you see, that was created at that time. So much. And so here we are in the first 25 years of this century. And this, I think, fabulous trail system needs to be completed. So, my homework assignment to the board, and this is for discussion, all right, for your consideration. We'd like to have, there are 4 trails, and you can see those. We'd like 3 of them named. 1 is already named. And, you know, it could be someone that's historically significant, it could be geographical, it could be natural, but the trails need to have names for you to think about. Then, there are a couple of options for sponsorship. The signs, and personally, the blue signs have already been established. In that last 25 years, we came up with a new village logo, Walking Town Experience, as well as the, and I thank Monique O'Hara for designing it, the bridge, Stihaha tree, that was our new signature, and the color blue. We have a beautiful new restored sign right in the center of the village. And there's a reason I mentioned that. Okay. So, first of all, board, if you think about what should we name these? Secondly, we need some improvement, maintenance of the 4 trails, as well as the absorption of the cost to put new signage. And Dan is going to address the notion and the idea of a QR code. Instead of having a whole bunch of signs that people have to read, a QR code on each of the trailheads could possibly tell you how long the trail is, what the amenities are, that just as a suggestion, and it doesn't detract from the sign itself. So, board, for consideration, for discussion, financial help from some of our major businesses here, and discuss what would be the criteria for a financial adoption from local businesses. What are they going to get for their money? What would the sponsorship provide for the sponsor? Something to think about. Or volunteers in the same criteria. What would be required for an organization? I'm just going to throw Kiwanis out there. So what would they get? What would the benefit to the organization be? Because we do have to think about, you have to think about maintenance, the amenities, new signs, and how can that cost be absorbed? So to summarize my lesson and the homework for maybe 2 weeks from now would be to think about naming the trails. And secondly, how do we want to achieve the signage, the extension of the trails? How could that be financed? Okay. And everyone I know will come back with excellent homework assignment in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is piggyback on partly what Sarah just articulated. There's really 2 signs. So the first sign would be something, if you can go back, if you wouldn't mind, Taryn, to the first slide. Something like that or something like this. And if you, no, the one before. If you think about 3 or 4 strategic locations in the village, and let's use the visitor center as the first. People get off the boat. Well, what can we do in this bustling riverfront community? Well, they see a professionally done sign, not something that's on a piece of paper that's going to fade when the sun hits it behind the plexiglass. A professionally made sign that identifies an overview of the village. So it could be located there. It could be located at the location Sarah mentioned, right down here near the bridge. It could be located at, what do we call it, the old, behind the fire station?
Baldwin Canal
We
Square.
could call it Baldwin Canal. There could be a location there. It could be at each of the parks, where you then have the QR code that they can click on. I'm old, so I'm not overly familiar with QR code, but everybody uses them today. You could populate that with all the right amenities that are within the village of Baldwinsville. It would give you the particulars of all of what you're seeing there. The second signage would be, my turn, jump into the next one, would be this. It would be what we currently have, and that would be located strategically in each one of the trails, particularly where there's trailhead parking. So, behind the Dunkin' Donuts, behind the old Lysander Town Hall, there's parking. So there'd be a beautiful sign like this that would say the Sergeyevich Trail. And there'd be a QR code. If you take this trail, it'll give you direction, it'll take you to a map that you can get 3.5 miles running the Sergeyevich Trail, crossing the bridge, going down Water Street, going down that beautiful trail, parallel to Meadow and the water, taking you into Community Lines Park, doing the loop, coming back. Hell, you got 3.5, 4 miles under your belt already. And somebody would know that. Somebody wants to ride their bike. Somebody wants to take their grandkids for a little walk. Well, maybe they got to go to the bathroom. So now you identify in that QR code, well, we got beautiful restroom facilities down there at Community Lines Park. Most people are unaware of that. So we're at the next phase of this project. This isn't a failure. We're at the next phase. And the village board, the Chamber of Commerce, the community, the businesses, all have a partnership in this. They got a vested interest. So the idea is to stay positive, not be judgmental or critical, and figure out ways that creatively we can come up with a way of doing it. You're the legal entity. We're deferring to you to decide what's the right path. I'm here to tell you the community will support what your decisions are. But nonetheless, we got to make a decision. We've got to decide what to do. I hate to tell you, I recall probably a year ago I was here talking about signage. Thanks. I got some community members that are interested in being part of the team. We've gotten together, we've talked. So please, I'm going to open it up for a conversation. I've spoken long enough. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are, because we can go back to the drawing board, because you make the decision. So please, what are you thinking? And spare no expense.
Well, first I want to point out that you should sleep easy tonight. The trail in Lions Park that was through the woods, it wasn't there 25 years ago.
Oh, it makes me feel a little better.
And one other thing, Sarah, over the last 25 years, we now have a parks budget that's pushing $40,000 a year. Taking care of those amenities is being already addressed to a degree.
Bruce, you make my heart happy.
And I've protected most of it in lieu of parks money.
Well,
And now the vultures are here. I've spoken to Dan. My feeling on signs is one of the most important things is consistency. Like the crooked sign, the sign needs to be clearly identified. This is a sign I want to look at. It's going to tell me something about trails. Whether it's going to tell me there's a restroom nearby or whatever, as long as it's consistent so people can identify what it is. I'm not the person to come up with design stuff. I do remember when Sarah on Point Park, the whole thing was to have that canal feeling, the chains and stuff, even though there's no canal down there. But I think playing along those ideas with our signs would be important.
I like the idea. I think it's important to that people know where to go and what they're looking at. And I'm with you on it. I think it's a great idea.
Would you be able to, in the hyperlinks, as far as getting community involvement and local business involvement, somebody pulls up to the wall and they know they're going to be here for a couple of days, maybe 24 hours, 36 hours. They haven't done laundry. If they could open that up and they would say, oh, there's a laundromat right there, I can go here. Or, boy, we want Mexican food, we can go here. Or, we want a good steak, we can go here. I mean, is it all going to be interactive to the point? We need a bed and breakfast, we're going to go here.
I think, to the question, I think come grow with us. And I think it's a moving target. Because the clerk's office or somebody in village government is going to have the responsibility of tickling the ivories and making sure whatever data is necessary in the QR code, that it's updated. So I think you grow that process, because I know the trails, there's potential for future growth of the trail system. So obviously you're going to have to go in and tickle the ivories and say, oh, it's no longer 1.1 miles, it's now 1.9. So you're going to have a program where you keep it updated.
Yeah, we had that challenge of a sign that identified where the hardware store was for the boater who needed something important, or where restaurants were and stuff. But then businesses change, and if you invest in a high-quality sign, you're out hundreds.
And if I could just take a moment with the whole issue on signage, I want to thank the board. I have noticed very clearly, particularly at the Four Corners, that a lot of the nuisance BS signs are gone. It's clearly visible. I've noticed that a lot of the junk signs that people take a liberty to put up on a utility pole, which trashes the community, I've noticed that they've been removed. And I want to compliment the board for taking that initiative in cleaning up that area.
I think with the signs, I think you can modify what content is in the QR code without getting a whole new sign.
That's very easy.
So, but with that being said, looking at this in two phases here, because this is a big pie and we could probably only eat a piece at a time, how much does the trail expansion have to do with the signage? In other words, can we get rolling with signage and then talk about how we're going to fund trail expansion? Because I think, Terry, you were looking into that. Does one hinge on the other, or?
I don't think so. You know, I don't, there's no obstacle that you can't overcome, right? So I think that the cleverness here is to create, if you're looking at a 4, 5 geographical key locations where you get a group of visitors that you want to have some familiarity with what Baldwinsville has, you put something generic like that sheet that you have, the first sheet, and again, a QR code that can be updated monthly, quarterly, whatever the battle rhythm is, and you update that. The specific trails where the trailheads would be, you would have a beautiful sign like this that would stay, 90% of that is, 100% of that is going to stay the same. The data behind the scenes on the QR code will change monthly or whatever. So I don't think you're going to have an investment up front. And as Sarah alluded to on the volunteer end, I'd like the board's permission. I got a group of folks that want next Sunday at 10:30 to go down to the Sergeyevich Trail and just do some general cleanup. That's where, if the decision from the board is opposed to a financial sponsorship, we'd be receptive of a volunteer sponsorship, which you get a group, and I'm going to throw out, you're part of the Rotary, Bruce, so I'll say the Rotary, just because he's a member, so I'm not talking out of school. Maybe the Rotary sponsors a trail. And what would the village like to see for that sponsorship? Once a month, we would hope that you would partner with the village DPW superintendent. We'll leave you some bags down there. We'd like you to do a general cleanup, walk the trail. If you see trash, police the area on a regular basis. That'll also help, Chief. That'll help hopefully minimize some of the vandalism, some of the spray paint. Because now you've got folks out there in the community that have a vested interest in that particular section of the trail. I happen to go up to the American Legion on Wednesdays, and there's probably 15, 18 guys that would love, and they're gonna come down a week from Sunday at 10:30, and they're gonna help weed whack, do a little bit of work down around the trail, provided the village board is okay with that. They would on a regular basis come down and do some work. Now you've got people that have that interest. And when they walk their grandkids down there, they can say, yeah, this is the Sergeyevich Trail. And you know, me and your Uncle Billy and Bobby and Stevie help maintain this. They got a vested interest. I happened to be out on the trail the other day, ran into a guy I hadn't seen in 20 years. And he said, how you doing? I said, I'm doing great. He says, I got a son named Danny. And he's interested in getting involved in the village. He loves the trail system. What can he do? And I said, well, you know what? The village board approves a week from Sunday. I'm going to be down there at 10:30 weed whacking some weeds. Have him come on down. And if he's got a half a dozen friends, bring them too. We'll have a good time. So, as Sarah alluded to, I'm hoping, as the committee is, that you make a decision. What is that decision? Do you want sponsorship? Do you want volunteerism? Are you okay with this type of signage at the trailheads? Are you okay with the first sheet there, signage at your major 4 areas? If you're not, is there a version, something different you'd like to see? That's okay. Let's have that discussion. But let's do something. The energy's there. People are excited about what's going on. They're happy with the village board. They're happy with the activities. They're feeling it. Let's give them something to continue with that. I'm excited to hear that in October there's going to be the boats coming down. There's going to be an event. I did speak with the chamber. I know that the chamber board, said that we could have a conversation about possibly doing something for Taste of Beeville about celebrating 25th anniversary of creating this bustling riverfront community with the amphitheater. Don't know what that looks like yet, but that's something that we can think about. You get people excited. Keep the momentum going, but we gotta make a decision. So respectfully, I would hope that in 2 weeks,
I'm not gonna ask these guys to make a decision tonight.
no, we can come back and through your committee process, you've had a conversation, and you can present something to say, we like it, we don't like it, here are a couple of alternatives, let's work this, but let's have a date in mind that we're gonna make a decision. Any other questions, comments, thoughts before I get off my soapbox?
That was the homework assignment, Dan. And I could see clearly that everyone understood that in 2 weeks' time.
Dan, just a quick one. Is the part of the plan for signage to get a starting point? Anecdotally, when our guests leave the B&B, which is always open year-round, by the way, and they get to the four corners, we send them on the trails all the time. People like to hike. They get to the four corners as a starting spot, and they don't know where to go. So, you know, if part of the plan was to start the signage somewhere centrally, I didn't know if that was part of the.
I think we said those 4 or 5 areas would be the central, what do you call that, the beautiful sign?
The Pride of Baldwinsville sign that has been redone, that's right, where the canal. used to
Right
be.
above the canal, the barge canal bridge, yeah.
And that's central, people walk by it going in all different directions. It seems to me that now that that sign has been completely redone, that would be the logical place to direct people to, it's already there.
And I would just leave you with this. I've had an opportunity to go to all the parks in the village, and they're beautiful parks. So $40,000, I would put $400,000 in the village budget, Mr. Treasurer, for the parks, the trails, because they're great assets. Thank you for your time and patience.
Can I just add to the homework? I'm gonna pass a little request to Taryn. Could you, in the next couple weeks, get a budget of what a sign similar to that would, what it would cost? I do like the idea of keeping them consistent with our larger signs welcoming people to the village, so I think we could certainly mirror that at the trailheads. But
Difference being there's a QR code or something.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah, but I like the look and shape and the whatever, but thank you.
Okay, anybody else here want to say anything before we move on? Okay, is there anybody, citizens who would like to address the board on agenda items? Hey there.
Sally, I live in the village. I had a question about the first item on the agenda. Like, what does it mean when you say that you're signing a letter? I mean, I know what it means to sign a letter, but I don't know what.
Well, number one, let me clarify, the board has already been polled and voted on this. This is a formality,
Okay,
doing it here. It allows me to sign, authorizes me to sign a letter that allows about between $2.5 to $3 million of support to go into a project.
and we're talking about the Bronze Foundry.
Yes.
Okay, so has that been I'm confused
No,
about
it has
the,
not gone through the final steps of planning board. No,
okay,
but this is part of the process. If it doesn't get approved, they don't get the money either.
okay.
The
well, that
money would
was-
be awarded, they can't apply for it, the village has to apply for it for them, because the state's not gonna give them the money.
But it's not saying that, yes, it's a go.
No, no.
Okay, I just like,
Until the planning board passes on that, and because it's a PDD, it will come back to this board to accept that PDD. So there's 2 steps yet to go.
no, I just wanted to
Yeah, okay.
wrap my
Yeah.
head around what it
Yeah,
meant
this is
exactly.
not saying it's a done deal by any
Okay.
means.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Matt Hunt, Craig Ball, Chamber of Commerce. I'd just like to offer some support for Jim and the Bicentennial Committee with what's going on for October 3rd. I think it's a rich part of our heritage and we need to embrace that. There's no specific entity running anything, so I don't think there's anybody actually to charge, but it's a community event celebrating our heritage, so I'd just like to support Jim that there should be no cost or anything associated with that. Also just like to thank the board and the mayor for entertaining the New York State Liquor Authority waiver for Taste of Beeville, as we will have at least 5 permits probably. So thank you for your support and your help with pulling that event together. And also for Dan, I think the trail signage, completion of that project's a great idea. Look forward to what that looks like and how we can make it happen. Thank you.
Anyone else addressing any agenda items? Hearing no one, we'll move on to trustees' comments, and I think it's Joe's turn.
I'll stick with the agenda, thank you.
I'm going to call a brief executive session for a personal matter.
Is that a personal or a personnel matter?
Don't ask me to spell either one, because I get it, I'll do it wrong both times. That's it, personnel.
Okay.
I'll just note that October 3rd also happens to be Frank O'Donnell's 89th birthday, so we may have to add that into the celebration as well.
He was almost here when you were.
So, but other than that, I will stick to the agenda.
I will stick with the agenda. Thank you.
I will follow the agenda.
Okay. Unfortunately, I have a whole list of things I wanted to mention. First of all, those of you in the business community and those of you who know other people in the business community, the county's issued the next phase of Main Street grant for facade work. Applications have to be done into the county by the village. We have to put it all together by September 30th. So we're asking anybody who wants to do this to get in by September 26th. All the information you need is available in the codes office. Specifically, talk to Michelle.
It's on the website.
And it's up on the website. Okay. Item number 1 out of the way. At Dad's urging, I took a hike this afternoon and walked down to one of the trails, and Mike mentioned expansion and growing trails. One of the neat things is that the Evich Trail, if you go to the end, right to the end of the fence, you can see the next expansion. You can't go on it because it's on the other side of a fence, and until that construction project's complete, I don't think you're going out there, but you can see the base is all smoothed out and in place. You can see it disappear into the horizon. I couldn't see around the corner where it went. But as Block Street develops, that's coming online, just that to note. Our DPW superintendent, I know on his agenda from the DPW meeting, has adjusted what he's working on, and so is moving some of the attention over to the trail that goes along Meadow Street, which was planned to link in, and we'll get some of that down, some of the connections. Main Street, I wanted to ask the board, if you don't have a copy of the Canton Woods Agreement, please ask our clerk to provide you one. That comes up and is due in September. I'd like to get as much input, and also from our attorney, on having that document say what we believe it ought to say. Solar Simplified. I had a trustee comment that he hadn't seen credits on his National Grid bill. Unfortunately, I don't ever see my National Grid bill, and I don't ever look at it as pay it. So I got a hold of Solar Simplified and was given the explanation that they've run into obstacles with, this is the plan, the way it was set up, the plan was as you as a subscriber, as you came on board on a variety of different farms in central New York, once your farm was up, that's when it would start. So everybody, it'd be staggered. You no way of knowing when yours would begin. Well, the farm in Geddes and the farm in Camillus are online, but they ran into difficulties coordinating with National Grid accepting the power. So just some challenges they've had. And for our treasurer to note, they offered to send us a check for $2,500 for the first 50 people that signed up. So I sent them the address. So watch for that.
I think that's the price for a new sign.
There you go.
Could be. So I just want to share that with the community. If you're still looking for the credits, keep an eye on them, and it should happen. But it doesn't happen until your subscription on whichever farm comes through. What else? I mentioned that. Sarah, you mentioned naming 4 trails. One of the neatest trails in our community, is a 4th. There's one that many of us locally, and look at Mace, would call the Finger Dyke. That trail is in sore need of a new name. And it's a beautiful trail that goes down there.
Isn't the park there, like Friendship Park or something? I remember seeing a sign there calling it Friendship Park or something like that. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know, but the Flotsam Circus will be there next week. And I wanted to let the board know some of the stuff I was working on this, I've been doing codes, looking at codes. Baldwinsville has a property maintenance code that virtually says nothing. So I looked at some other communities at ideas to borrow, not that we want to become a community that, dictated like with an HOA, but something that says your next door neighbor's not going to have 12 junk cars, et cetera, that you would be protected. So some of that kind of stuff. So looking at some of that, and I went through one. I stole one from the village of the city. Johnson City is a village. I don't know why they have city in their name, but in any case, they had a good property maintenance thing. And so I looked at it and have passed it on to our codes enforcement officer to look at. And if we like it, we'll eventually pass it on to our attorney to review it to make sure it looks legit, and then bring it back for everybody to look at. I was looking at bicycles because I was concerned about all the e-bikes and e-scooters and all this that are flying around the community. And then I was concerned that as a cyclist, am I biased? Because I think you should pedal a bike. But in any case, I pulled up our bike code that was passed in 1924. You're not allowed to have a bicycle on the sidewalks, people. Right. If it's more than 20 inches, what I did think is they said if you're over 12, you can't be on the sidewalk. And I'm thinking, well, man, that's kind of harsh, But in any case, there is a code. Maybe we tweak it, maybe we don't. I think we talk trails. I think there needs to be discussions of trail etiquette. You can't tell. You can't tell when an e-bike's coming up behind you.
Oh, we almost got run over by one the other day.
And at the same time, we don't want to be party poopers. There's hundreds of people, it seems in Baldwinsville, riding around everywhere.
Maybe they just can't wear their earphones.
That could be. But it's like, I can't ask the chief to do anything because they're not vehicles. So when they run in the street without headlights and stuff, and hopefully you don't run into them, they don't have insurance, they're not registered, they're entirely different than much of anything out there. And hopefully that all settles down in time. Hopefully the state will step up and make a recognition that the class 3 e-bike is not really a bike. That's the thing that goes 30 miles an hour with a throttle. In any case, I've babbled on long enough. Let's move on to department heads and go to our attorney.
Just a couple of things. In going through the trail system and the recommendations, it also reminded me, since we've got an item on the agenda, which we'll be discussing about the rules relative to site plans, we've talked over the years about a master plan and reviving the master plan, and that's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. I also had recommended several years ago that perhaps, since we're changing the zoning law bit by bit, that we might talk to SACPA. The Syracuse and Onondaga County Planning Board has been very helpful in assisting a municipality to take a look at their zoning code from beginning to end and kind of work with the village to perhaps do an overhaul. So that's something that might be appropriate at this time, because while we're doing all these thoughts about the site, about the trails and looking at the community on into the future, I think that's not a bad idea to do at this time. The other thing, just a couple of comments, although it has nothing to do with legal business, on the trail sponsors. You know, if you notice on state highways, local not-for-profits volunteer to take a portion of those highways as a project, to continually do that. You see those little signs. I know the Lions Club down in Skaneateles has done that, and that's part of their projects. They go out periodically, clean up the highway, so you know, that wouldn't be bad for the trails. The other thing too is that the village board has the authority to create a permanent community with not only board members but community members that'll last on. I think one of the issues that maybe was raised is that these things come before the board, and then the board changes. You know, 10 years later, it's not the same board, and perhaps by creating a permanent committee that would have a board chair and members, and then also community members, like a park committee, like the towns have.
Parks Commission.
Parks Commission, yes. You would be able to get community input, and that commission would continue on beyond the administrations of people on the board, because you do need a kind of a permanent community input, and that also raises all of that. The only other thing I'd say is you might want to name one of those trails for Jonas, since it's a bicentennial, but I'll leave it at that.
Oh, you're one of those Baldwins.
Other than that, I'll stick with the agenda.
I did want to comment on some of the things Bob mentioned. I had called earlier in the year, we're on the agenda with the SMTC, the Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Committee, to look at our trail system and our pedestrian system within the village. They're booked all the way up through fall, so we're on their agenda for the upcoming year. And also, you mentioned planning. I spoke to Onondaga County Planning, and they promised us $30,000 to invest in that project.
Wow.
So those irons are in the fire. The fire keeps getting bigger, though.
You know, and I'm available to help out for whatever the village needs in any of these things.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our village clerk.
I just wanted to update everybody on the My Baldwinsville app. As of July 30th, we've had about 279 residents download that. It's not something that I can pull. I always have to ask for the information. So they were able to do that as of the end of July. So I think that's very,
Was
very
some of
good
that
response.
spike, you think, because of the water bill mailing?
It could, yeah, it could, well, no, because the water bills didn't hit until August 2nd. But they're all, the water bills are, the flyers and the water bills that just went out, they'll be in it for September and October, so.
I hope
by that
everybody in
time-
the room is signed up.
Yeah. And that's all.
Here's the
and I
QR code if you need it.
stick to the agenda.
Recognizing the treasurer.
Thank you. Just a couple things. One, on your abstract summary that you have for the meeting tonight, there's no budget modifications for tonight. But on the abstract summary you have, it may appear that we are over budget paving roads in the village. We're not. There's 2 lines for paving there, and there's some movement of money that goes on after this meeting to make one account or the other account whole. But we are under budget for paving so far. I think Taryn has told me that there's still some bills to pay, but because of the way we get money from the state and then the way we pay some of it ourselves, it may look like that right now, but you are free to approve that paving bill to pay that. The second thing, I first of all would absolutely like to compliment Dan and the people that he has with him here this evening, Sarah specifically also, for that presentation. It was a great presentation, brought back a lot of memories. But I want to make sure you know, just my observation, at least from our finances, there's money available to help. I know there were some kind of overtures in there about what the village might be able to pay. And I want you to know that my belief is that we have money to do that. There's other funds besides the general fund. And so, I don't think that we're talking about a huge amount of money. And I think that we can walk before we run and do some of it and then see where we are after that and continue to move forward with the community. So.
Heart be still, he's not like Don Cole. Heart be still. Sit down, joke.
And with that, I will stick to the agenda.
Can I tag on to, I ask of Taryn to come up with a budget? Can the two of you work together on where your thoughts on where that funding might come from?
Sure. Yeah, we could absolutely do that. And I think there
What
would
buckets
be
you're looking at?
several options, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
You're up.
Thanks. Just want to thank everybody. We had the first annual senior prom at Canton Woods on August 1st, and it was a success. Everybody was very happy. We had about 50 people show up, so it was a good event. I would have liked to have seen some of the board come and join us, but that's okay. We'll get you in the next one. Upcoming next week.
Ask. Next time you put all those people up on Facebook, can you identify them?
Sure. There's lots of us. Yes, I will. We do have the upcoming 15th annual car show next Wednesday evening, starting at 5 p.m. Registration does open up to start at 4, so we would like people to come out and join us for that. Our rain date for that, if it is raining, will be the following Wednesday, which will be the 20th. We do have a beginner session for square dancing on August 26th that is free to anyone. So if you'd like to come out and join us, 6:30. We have the flu clinic starting, and September 3rd will be our first set of flu clinics. So that is 9 to 12 at the senior center. And then our Rotary picnic is coming up. Thank you again to the Baldwinsville Rotary for that. It is on September 4th from 4 to 6 p.m. And we have the Walk for the Woods on September 13th at 10 a.m. And other than that, we'll stick to the agenda, unless anybody has any questions.
It's good to hear there's things going on.
Thank you.
Yes, Taryn.
Just want to say, report that all of the paving for the 2025 season is now complete as of this week. The paving that was completed this week looks a little different than traditional pavement in the village that we've been used to. It takes a little bit of a curing time, but our crews will be going around in the next 2 weeks with a sweeper, cleaning things up. Again, it's a little different than what we're used to, but I promise you when it's all said and done, it will be nice and we'll keep our roads in tip-top shape. And with that, look, it's beginning of August, but it'll be fall very shortly. I just want to remind everybody to keep every organic materials as far as brush and leaves, let's keep them on the side of the street, not in the street. And I'd just like to thank Dan, Sarah, and Mace for working with us with DPW for the parks and the trails, and I'm looking forward to working with you folks in the future. it's been fun, and the excitement behind this with the community it's been great. So thank you. That's all I have.
I would like to point out, remind people in the community, Taryn used the expression, organic material. That does not include TV stands, furniture of any sort. If you put that out beside the road, sooner or later, you're gonna end up in court if you don't get rid of it. The only way to get rid of it that I know of is you get a hold of your trash hauler and pay them a fee, and they'll take it away. It's currently, it's been humorous. There's apparently a piece of furniture that is on the county pumps substation down at the end of Artillery Lane. I mean,
That they're waiting.
yeah, well, Tim contacted WEP today.
Because on their property?
Yeah. Moving on to the police chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Had the opportunity last week when I was out on patrol, happened to see a couple of young entrepreneurs in the village selling lemonade, and I stopped and had a nice chat with those two young girls. And one of them had a Lord's Camp shirt on, and I had attended that when I was about their age, and we talked about jumping into the cold water of Skinny Atlas Lake at 9 a.m. swimming class, and how much that would wake you up. But it was just a really nice thing to see in the community of where we're at, and kind of a traditional thing in the next generation, having something as I think it's a slice of Americana, and it was really enjoyable for me to stop and say hello. Did see Jim Dale and his bride there as well. They walked across the street and got some lemonade when I was there as well. But it was just a nice experience, and nice to be out and about. And we did put it on our Facebook page, and I know the village shared it. We got a lot of likes out of that too. And our village clerk took the opportunity to show me a neighboring department that copied our post and did something similar a day or two ago. Even used the same verbiage that we had used in our post. But
Who were they?
not going to mention any names. We've borrowed things from them as well over time, so I can't throw them under the bus too much. But other than that, I would stick to the agenda unless there's questions or comments from the board, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll just comment that I happened to drive by when the chief was enjoying his lemonade, and I got a good chuckle out of that, and
Yes,
enjoyed seeing him out,
Yes.
out and about, connecting with people in a positive way.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I had come up with a question in my head about the trails, the proposed trails. Were those already started work on these proposed ones, or these were just extensions?
They're extensions to existing.
Proposed trails are dreams.
Okay.
Okay, they're not grounded in reality at this
There's
point.
nothing then, okay.
Well, there's things that are going on with them, but no, I'm not at liberty to really.
Not in the physical universe.
Right. Okay.
And that's just the one yellow one?
Uh,
Oh, there's a blue one.
There's a blue one.
Oh, the blue one. The blue one, part of it's what I talked about.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
as soon as
why
they
I
take
was
the
like-
fence down, that'll come to be.
Yeah.
Then we and we need that link to be able to ever even talk about all the way out.
Right.
Which is on land controlled by the village, so
Okay.
proposed, but under our control.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it just came to my head, and I was like, well, I
That's
don't want
okay.
to ask back.
We're less formal than somebody's. Moving on to new business, could I have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the New York State Consolidated Funding Application for the Pro-Housing Supply Initiative in support of the Bronze Foundry lots?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is just memorializing
This is just, yes,
the
the-
email vote that we did.
exactly.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. I want to add, because there's always confusion, part of what exists today in the building environment is it's extremely expensive to build anything. Part of this application and pro-housing, some people are concerned pro-housing means we're opening the door to slumlords or something in Baldwinsville. Pro-housing would allow them to augment the builder's budget to the point where they can build something that can be rented in an affordable manner. And when they say affordable, they're talking workforce. So school teachers, nurses, people making somewhere in the $65,000 to $120,000 a year. Those are contributing members of your community.
One question. So this is those apartments, I thought they were just market value apartments.
It's workforce. There's a whole bunch of definitions you have to get into.
Okay, because at one of the meetings at the planning board recently, they said they were all market value, which to my mind is different than the working force value.
Well, you'll have to ask that question to the developer, but I think there's several categories. But it will be market rate, yeah. It's not. Moving on to item B, motion to set a public hearing for Thursday, August 21st at 6 PM to change section 345-34A of the Village Code that the Planning Board is authorized to review, approve with modification, or disapprove site plans which shall be required for any of the following structures or uses, and no building permit shall be issued for such structures or uses without final approval of the required site plans by the Planning Board.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Do we have any more,
Public hearings that night?
no, any more explanation of this? Do we have paperwork to look at, or is this a drastic change from what's in existence, or?
No, well, what's in existence, when the language in our code relative to site plans basically says that the planning board is authorized to review site plans for a specific set of circumstances. It does not say that they're required to do that. And an issue has come up recently where someone was building a building or changing a use on a property where they're going to demolish one building, build another, and they were going to be changing the use on that property. And the question was, well, can you, should you be able to get a building permit, or do you have to go get a site plan? And I had discussions with our codes officer, and I said, I believe they have to get a site plan. So they were finally told they had to go get the site plan before any certificate of occupancy could be granted. But it did leave some room for doubt as to whether or not, if you're going to be changing the use. For example, if you have a building in which this particular one was in a resident, it was in a residential, anyway, it was a non-conforming use and in a business district, and they wanted to make changes. They really need to go back to the planning board, because among other things, even though it may be a business, it's not a similar business, there may need to be more parking spaces. You may need to review what they're going to do to the parking lot. If they decide to pave over everything, you've got stormwater drainage issues and that sort of thing. So I think this cleans it up to make sure that before, this gives the code officer the right to say, look, in your particular application, you are going to have to go get a site plan with what you want to do before I can give you a building permit. And I think that just cleans up the
So
language.
just clarifying the language, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item C, motion to authorize the mayor and the chief of police to sign letters of support for the New York State Liquor Authority to issue a waiver of the liquor license requirement for Paper Mill Island to allow more than 4 events at the venue within the 2025 year, to allow the Taste of Beeville event to serve alcohol on September 20th, 2025.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
No. Anything you want to add, chief?
My letter's already signed.
Oh.
In anticipation of this, and in the possession of the village clerk.
Oh, okay.
In escrow.
Yes.
Well, in that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item D is the bicentennial discussion.
Well, there is a concern, this is a very informal ad hoc committee. And, there's no single entity that's doing this. So, this is why, Jim, requested that we waive, the fees.
And I have concerns, but I'm not just
I mean, this is
concerned.
gonna be, it's gonna be a very, it's not gonna be a wild
No, but
event.
we take food trucks on the island and they run into things.
Yes.
Whose liability? There's no security deposit is being proposed, there'd be no security deposit. Something gets damaged, we're proposing a taxpayer eat that. Correct? I mean, I'm just talking, I don't know. But I want a clear understanding of what we're doing.
Well,
Yes, is the answer. Jane just sent me an email requesting insurance for that particular date. And the Center for the Arts is not going to provide that insurance. This is not our event.
And this entity is not really an entity. Is that what I'm
No, it's an
understanding?
ad hoc committee.
It's an ad hoc committee of multiple
Volunteers.
entities and volunteers.
It's primarily the community. And theoretically, nothing has to happen on October 3rd. The boat's going to dock, and then it's going to go on the next morning. Basically,
But it'd be a waste of opportunity.
I mean, it's just a stopover, but it is one of,
A lot of people are stepping up to make this,
And a lot of other
a good
villages are
event
having
for the
big
community.
events. So we're one of the bigger ones. If we don't, wouldn't have the best impression.
we are the second busiest lot on the system.
Well, let me be clear, we're not opposed to, but I think we need to explore everything carefully before we make a decision.
What is an insurance policy ballpark cost? Because I'm not familiar with that, one. And two, if it's something that the villages, would we need insurance for the village? Or would it be specific to this event, insurance policy?
You have insurance, you don't need insurance for this event. We can't get insurance for this event because we're not a legal entity of any kind, so.
I look to our attorney. If the village is hosting and putting on the event with the bicentennial committee, does that alleviate the need for?
That would put the responsibility on the village, but it's something the village board could do, or the village could do as a community event, sponsoring it, in a sense. In other words, taking the committee under its wing. And I can look into that a little more, but I would think that would be okay if the village board wants to assume that risk. But I think in order to do that, you really need to also take some responsibility and oversight. And that's something, that we got some time to talk about that, so.
Okay, but that means our DPW committee's cleaning up and setting up and that kind of stuff. I don't know what kind of turnout we're anticipating.
Taryn, you did say something about having, a couple of,
Yeah,
Staff.
staffing it, yeah, staffing for the event.
I don't know.
just like two.
Is it going to impact police coverage? Are we going to need, there's going to be no alcohol on the island, correct?
No, this is not a.
I don't envision this being an issue that there would need to be police there.
Is this different than the last canal boat that came through a few years ago? And he was down on the wall, you got to go on it and.
This is a reproduction of the Seneca Chief, which was the canal boat that Governor DeWitt Clinton took for the length of the Erie
I understand
Canal in
that.
1820.
There was another boat down there, an educational boat.
Yeah, they want to tie in the villages. There's some formalities. They want to do a wedding of the waters ceremony for our particular location. They've done it at the other locations along their stops. The boat has an educational staff on it.
Do you know how long when it would get here during the day?
Yeah, it's gonna get here at about 5 o'clock.
Oh, so it isn't gonna be available for like school kids to be able to
No, I
visit?
mean, after-school activity. But yeah, we're getting in at 5. Essentially, we need the park from 4:30 to 7:30 because at 7:30, they stop doing their tours of the boat. And then everybody wants to go and go home. So,
It's dark
and
in
it's dark.
October.
How did we work?
Sunset is at 6:43.
Also, a couple of years ago, we had the Albany Symphony come on.
Next year also.
And then they came,
Maybe.
and they performed at Paper Mill. I'm not sure what we did as far as insurance or anything like that.
Well,
I
the
think it
Center,
was
the
just
Center for the Arts was the host, so
Oh,
I'm pretty sure we
okay.
picked up the insurance.
Yeah. Would it make sense, Jody, I'm gonna ask you, if the committee could put together a list of the activities that you're thinking or planning on and run them by our insurance carrier and see if he has any concerns about it, or if he thinks that our,
No bounce houses.
that our usual coverage would,
No, I mean, it should
would be
pretty
adequate.
civilized event.
Yeah, I don't,
Are there gonna be mule rides?
I wish, but no.
so.
I don't know, let's look into that.
Mr. Mayor, the other thing I'd offer too is that the entities at play in this committee, especially the Baldwin Center for the Arts and the Greater Baldwin Chamber of Commerce, have a history of being excellent stewards of the island, so I'd like you to take that into consideration as well.
And when there have been incidents on the island, as there was recently, we sought, and we paid we were happy to forfeit our deposit, but in turn, we actually were able to recoup most of that from the,
The violator.
violator.
And you remember those because it's rare. They only stick in your memory because it's fresh and it's unusual.
This guy happened to hit both sides of the causeway, so.
Well, it's not historically, not pointing fingers at anybody. There have, things have happened out there. And just so the board is aware, what we're doing is we're saying, we're putting it on the taxpayers to.
We
if
also have an
something
inquiry
happens.
out, don't we, Donna, that we're trying to find out if the Buffalo Maritime Museum has their own insurance.
That's right.
For the boat. And their entire staff. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a bunch of roadies, they're gonna get here early in that day, set up the educational part, the boat arrives, get tours, and then the boat parks overnight. And then goes away in the morning.
Somebody want to float a motion that the village will support the bicentennial celebration as a host entity?
So moved.
So that allows us to waive.
There we go, that's kind of where I was going with the question, so yeah.
So we're aware, everybody's aware that that's what we're taking on the responsibility. And I in turn will ask, when you promote, you give us some credit in the little list of people.
That's why we are here today.
Okay. Any discussion beyond what we've already done? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry forth and party. Celebrate. Now we need to promote the bejeebers out of it. That's the last thing except for an executive session.
Public comment?
Public is there anybody who wants to make some other public comments? Come forth, Brian.
Hi. I probably don't need this, I'm kind of loud anyway, but I'm Brian Burmeister, live at 66 Oswego Street. It's funny, because I wanted to say a couple of things that I have felt a more positive energy in the village, and maybe that is because we're doing some of these things, and now with the bicentennial celebration and some of the other events that are happening, that is great. I'm glad to hear that trails are being expanded and used. So we've got some things that are going really well in the village, and some of that was established a long time ago. Some of it we can still build on. When I think about all of the good things that I mentioned, the parks and the trails, but the schools, so many of the restaurants, the walkability, all of those sorts of things. I mean, I have a vision of going even further, and I think that's maybe where some of the energy is coming from. That people have a sense that, you know what, we have a great baseline and we need to move forward. I mean, I have a vision of lots more things happening. everything from, filling the gaps in the tree line on the streets to maybe even parking lots with trees that would be nice to park in and reduce the heat of all that tarvia. Improving, there'd be other beautification things that could happen. There could be a lot of things along code enforcement. I'm glad to hear that we're looking at code review on certain things, but it's been long discussed. Are there ways for us to strongly encourage or fine or enforce bad landlords and maybe even encourage then redevelopment into single family home ownership of those properties or those sorts of things. And everything from, enforcing our codes and our laws to beautifying and improving and some deference to historical structures and encouraging people with older houses to, put on that historically accurate front porch as opposed to whatever they might be able to afford, those sorts of things. I think all of that is great and there's momentum. And I think there's a lot that we can do. Now, I don't know if this speaks to the master plan or not. You guys can interject if that's the case. But I was reminded that we have some really old infrastructure. Partly because there is a water patch hole right directly in front of my house. One that incidentally, my neighbor across the way now has flooding in their finished basement. Now I don't know where that happened, but their claim is that they have never had the problem the whole time they've lived there. They've lived there a couple of years, and now something's been jostled. So anyway, and I know that just two buildings down from me last year on Elizabeth Street and Oswego Street, there was a hole there that was, I think, open all summer for another patch. So yes, we of course have to patch all of our water supply and our sewer and all of those sorts of things. So we have to do those things as it happens. But patches don't last forever. And I guess I'm wondering, is the master plan where this would fall, or are there other plans that need to fall to see, what are the plans to ideally, do everything at once so that the streets are ripped up, block by block on some sort of a schedule and everything is coordinated. So you're repairing water and sewer, you're coordinating with National Grid, you're burying power lines, all that kind of stuff. And then actually, maybe we can replant trees without worrying about having them look like a crescent shape because of the power lines. And it'd be much prettier and easier, and we'd have less power outages out of that. So I guess who speaks to the master plan and what is it, and what are the dates, important dates that are going to happen with it?
It's kind of a tough one because.
Well,
let me just, because I'm the one that brought it up. A master plan is a plan that basically looks at the village and looks at the future. And we've had some of that done before, and that's, for example, they were talking about the Four Corners and some other things. And so they would be a generalized plan about open space and what we should be doing. That's not come into play yet, so that's still under consideration. But as I say, I think for the growing of the village and also what's happening with Route 31 wouldn't be a bad thing to do. But that was just my suggestion.
Does that encompass infrastructure investment?
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, only, I don't know, I'm not an engineer or an architect, so I can't tell you that. But they basically look at where the village may be going and some of the needs the village may have in the next 10 years and be sure we're ready for it.
Right. So am I hearing it correctly that right now there is not a plan? It's just
No,
reactive?
we have an older plan that went into effect, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I think, that they were looking at. But it's not a generalized plan, just a specific one. So,
and I'm just curious, not to go back that infrastructure part of it, does the older plan, does that reference specifically infrastructure?
No, that was,
like
it had some specific issues. I don't have it, obviously.
I see. Yeah, no, I realize you don't have it in front of you. But.
Well, that's just something the village could do, take a look at
Okay.
where it's going.
Is that something on future agendas?
Infrastructure?
Yeah, and making sure that that is.
The planning is, the infrastructure stuff you're talking about. No, I mean, we're gonna do a hydrological site. First you have to identify, you can't say all the infrastructure's old and we should tear it all up and replace it all at once.
No, and I
because
wouldn't want it that
that's
way
not the
either.
way, that's not
No.
real.
But when there, when there are multiple patches in short areas, in a short time, you can pretty much start piecing it together where it really needs to be replaced.
I'm not a hydrological engineer. I'm not. Yes, Mr. Engineer.
Those immediate issues around your house, with regard to paving, drainage, water, sewer, stormwater, is sitting right there.
Yeah, right. No, I get it.
DPW
Yeah, yeah.
should address that.
Yeah, no, I'm not having the water problems, it's my neighbor across the way, but, yeah.
No, it's really more on that level of Terrence than it is the board,
I see.
in my mind.
Okay.
And just so you know, this is my first year, so it's a learning. I'm trying to figure out. It's a lot of putting out fires right now. Mark, Bruce, and myself, we have been developing a 5-year rotating capital improvement plan.
Okay, that's encouraging.
So, and highlighting that, we do, as a community, we do get state funding for paving. And with that state funding, once you touch that road, there's a time limit to it so that you can't go back. So it is efficiently spending that money, so that we're not paving a street and then ripping it back open and then replacing water main. For example, Oneida Street needs some work, and currently scoping, developing that. So when all the school work is done, all the heavy traffic's off of that, we can go in and replace water services, main if need be, and pave it, and then drainage too, and then walk away and have a good road for the next 25 years. But yeah, what you're talking about, it's currently in development.
Okay, that's encouraging. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a public comment, please?
Please.
All right, I'll be brief. I know that the rule is, I think, and I'm.
Oh, we violated every rule there is.
No, that's okay. My name's Jason Santiago. I've been a resident of the Village of Baldwinsville for 5 years now. First thing I want to do is I just want to thank the village board, all the supporting agencies, because I've been here for 5 years, and the reason why I chose to live here was because everybody was warm, friendly, and it's a very safe community. So I want to start with that. The other reason why I'm here tonight is because I don't pretend, I'm not going to be a keyboard hero. I hate social media. I want to be a part of the solution. So I just wanted to kind of share just some of my initial thoughts, because I agree with Mr. O'Hara behind me. This community is a gem. I saw it 5-6 years ago, and I just wanted to offer some thoughts. Sounds like there's some master facility planning discussions that might have happened in the past. And again, I'd be happy to participate, because I'm not going to stand up in front of a microphone and just complain. My son, Mario, I have 3 children. He's my youngest, 12. He loves to fish. He utilizes the Seneca River, whether it's by the lock, here on Mercer Park. I used to live right down that street on Charlotte Street. I just moved a couple months ago, but I'm still a member of this village. And one of the things that my son and I like to do is play basketball together. That's another activity. Just something to be mindful of. If you haven't been on the basketball court side of Mercer Park, it's not the most friendly to play basketball. The courts have their issues, but again, want to be a part of the solution. If not a lot of people are utilizing it, I'm all for giving that up if there's something that maybe we can do part of planning. Again, none of my suggestions are immediate. They're probably more planning down the road, but maybe we need pickleball courts, maybe we need fire pits for people to utilize to bring their grandchildren and families. I'd be, as a village resident, would I be upset? Maybe a little bit, because I can't play basketball with my son, but I'd rather there be more, those resources be utilized better. Another example I have is Paper Mill Island. It's a gem. So one of the things I've been thinking about was, how do we get more people to utilize it so that people can utilize and our local businesses, our restaurants, et cetera. So just some suggestions I have is, I think about Sunday evenings. It's very quiet sometimes in the summer. Why not maybe make it like a Sunday evening family movie night? Animated movies for, families to enjoy. Something that doesn't require a liquor permit. I've been here 5 years. I heard all the stories in the past long before I lived here from my neighbors about the concerts, the music, the traffic. I like music. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the concerts. I understand the traffic and, having to pick up the trash after all the people come and go. I think there's ways to maybe generate some new ideas that don't necessarily just revolve around alcohol. I just think that I see that gem down the street, and I think it can be utilized a little bit better. I think, like I said, senior citizens, maybe Monday nights could be senior citizen night, where their friends, their sons and daughters, their grandchildren can watch some older movies together. That's all I got to say. Just want to thank you for your time, and hopefully you'll welcome me to future meetings. Thank you.
Could you tell us your name again?
Yeah, Jason Santiago.
Oh, great.
Yep, I live right down the street on West Genesee Street.
Spell it for me.
S as in Sam, A, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, IAGO.
That's how I spelled it, okay.
There you go, you passed the test.
We just volunteered you for something.
I was gonna say.
I wanted to let you know that Taryn.
Thank you for your time.
And I discussed those basketball courts and how
We've talked about it.
the pavement is shot and where to go next, as opposed to just pave them. And pickleball, we talked about. I don't think pickleball would work there because of the noise. Pickleball is actually kind of loud.
Yeah, again, I'm about your ideas, right?
But thank you.
Think about fire pits, like it's right on it's prime waterfront view. It's a
We
gorgeous
could put the
park.
beach back in there.
There you go.
If we rehab that basketball court, do you think that would bring more people to use that?
My gut is no. I don't think enough people, like I'll be honest, I take my son to play basketball sometimes at Lysander Park. No one's ever playing basketball there. So, I mean, that's why I'm saying as a village citizen, would I be opposed if you guys decide, you know what, heck with the basketball courts. Let's do something different like pickleball if it brings communities together. Absolutely, I would not be opposed to it. So I'm just thinking of new ideas for better usage other than just the weeds growing, as you know.
Back when Sarah was a kid. That was a tennis court. Yeah, those are tennis courts down there.
So it could be pickleball.
And swimming lessons there too.
Yes, there was a beach and there was swimming.
Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything this evening? If not, we're going to retire into executive session. And are we having any?
Chief's going to stick around, and I don't anticipate any action.
Okay.
No.
Thank you for coming out and everybody
We
participating.
have to make a motion to go to.
I'll move. I was just going to thank all these people before we kicked them out. You're making a motion to go into executive session, you're seconding it, all in favor? Aye. Done? Whatever.